Hey guys, welcome back to another video here at All I See Is W, where we talk about stocks, Bitcoin, and finance. Today, I just wanted to talk about the overall Bitcoin market, especially with a Bitcoin mining company, Riot Platform, ticker RIOT. Just recently, we've heard a number of companies taking convertible notes. There's companies that are now trying to transition into HPC AI sector. And just recently, there's just been so much market sentiment going on in the Bitcoin miners. While we see some Bitcoin miners having a bullish run, we also do see other Bitcoin miners that are underperforming. But today I wanted to really cover Riot Platforms from a technical and fundamental analysis. And I just wanted to give you an overall update what my price target is, just looking at the recent bullish signals as well as covering the company updates, why I believe Riot has the potential to just rocket launch from here on out. I'll give you updates on just what had happened recently, just with the news that has been going around, especially when there's market sentiment going on, when there's speculation where a company is about to tap into a new arena. That's when investors get really attracted. And I think that's what really drives more of a rise in the share price increase. But we'll cover all of that. And if you're new to this channel, first, I would really appreciate you liking this video and subscribing for more related content. Let's begin, guys. So first off, let's take a look at the overall share price of Riot Platform. So we're looking at the overall range here for ticker Riot. At the end of the day, it ended at like 12.99, so rounding up to $13. Just looking at the prior resistance band here back in 2023, we saw that Riot jumped up to about $20. And early in the year, we saw, like in February and March, it hovered up and down at around $18. But where it currently stands at like the $13 range, just zooming in here, we saw back in early November, around the time when Trump was elected as president, riots started going up from like the low middle ground of like $6, $7 back in October, and it started climbing up. It went from like $8 all the way up to like $15, which is within a span of like a couple of days of trading. And since November 11th through like just recent times, early December, it was just bleeding out. The relative strength index started going down, where it started getting oversold. But it was just up until recently, just the last couple of days, where Riot has just had a reverse signal. And I think just based on the indicators here, we see current price above the Ichimoku clouds here. So typically, whenever you have the Ichimoku cloud, which I tend to think of it as a gravitational pull down, if you see the clouds below the current price, that's a good thing. Whereas when you see the clouds above the current price, then think of it as like the gravity pushing down the price. So we don't want that. So this looks positive here. RSI, we did at one point see RSI getting quite high at one point in November, but over the course of several weeks, it's been consistently low. But I think now, especially with all of the excitement, the news that has just been announced, we'll cover that from a fundamental perspective. We'll see why we're beginning to see more confidence. There's more investors now taking profits from like big companies like MicroStrategy and now hedging their bets into the miners, specifically the miners that have that HODL strategy. So even though we see companies like Mara, the leading company with mining and HODL, their share price just recently has gone down. But I think overall, these miners that are well established in terms of mining efficiency, production per month, and just with their HODL approach, these companies are going to benefit right now. But I think a lot of the hype going on right now is the HPC AI sector, while these Bitcoin miners are also mining for Bitcoin. But I just think that companies that have a high HODL with the Bitcoin reserve, they're going to benefit. And Riot is one company that is increasing their HODL right now. We'll talk about the numbers just with the recent news as well. But from a share price standpoint, I think in December, we can easily see Riot test that $18 zone. So that was the prior resistance that we saw in early of 2024. And if and when what Bitcoin breaks through that 120, starts breaking through that 150,000 barrier, which I think will happen in early 2025, we're still in that bullish cycle. If we follow the last two historical trends for Bitcoin, then we can see this huge rocket launch with Riot. In fact, I think that it's beginning to rocket launch, especially just with Riot bleeding out over the long descending resistance here, just with the whole entire year of 2024, even though we've seen a rise in Bitcoin price. So even though we've seen the miners lag behind, I think now there's going to be potential in these miners, and Riot is one miner that's going to benefit. Not to say that Riot is the only miner that's going to benefit, but we'll see the reverse signals coming forward here. And as I see Riot break through that $18 range, as we zoom out, I think we're going to start seeing tier two, tier three get tested. And I think that there's that 3 to 5x potential. We've seen what happened back in 2021 when the RSI just ran all the way up. Back when we saw that last Bitcoin bull rally, just 4 years ago, and looking at that RSI, it peaked, at like 86 below the 90 relative strength index, significantly overbought. It went from like $5 to $90. Of course, it's different today, right? Most of the people during that time were like at home. It was COVID. People were trading and buying stocks. And, Riot at that time was at the single $5, but that just shows you the power that it had, just with that increase in the rise. Perhaps we may not necessarily reach that high point of like $80, but I think that 3 to 5x, we can see like that 40, $50 potential, which I wouldn't rule out, especially with a company's share price that's been dormant for so long. And just from a fundamental perspective, let's just look at some recent updates here. So here, I just had a posting just based on what Riot Platforms announced. So they had a net proceeds recently of like $525 million with a 0.75% coupon convertible bond issue. And what they did with that money was that they acquired 5,117 Bitcoin at an average price of 99,000 per Bitcoin. And what that did was now Riot, they've increased their holding up to, getting close to that 17,000 Bitcoin, currently valued at like $1.68 billion at the current market price. So when you think about it, on top of all the cash reserve that they have just on Bitcoin alone on their balance sheet, that's valued at 1.68 billion. That's only going to increase their overall market capitalization. And just with CEO Jason Les here, I mean, he's even noted here that the overall Bitcoin holding figures includes monthly Bitcoin production through December 11th. And I just left a comment that, it's really great leadership and excitement going on at Riot. Riot, they loaded the truck with more Bitcoin. We saw that happening over the course of the last couple of days. Texas, we know, just got announcement on the strategic Bitcoin reserve state. It's a massive Texas facility in development. Definitely a star bright future that's going on. And we just heard recently that, you know, Riot Platforms are getting more big time hedge investors. So Starboard, buying Riot, taking a big investment in Riot, and they're planning on working with Riot to get Riot to shift its business model while continue mining, but also tapping potentially into HPC AI. So that's really what's driving all of this hype going on right now. And I think that Riot was viewed as an innovative growth company as well. When you look at Riot compared to like BitDeer, Hut 8, Iron, where these companies are like talked about so much, especially with like Hut 8, where there was speculation about how they're partnering up with Meta potentially. And we've heard about other AI-based companies like C3 AI partnering up with Microsoft. So can you just imagine like how big this would be if like let's say Nvidia or like Tesla working with Riot Platforms, especially in a big state that supports the strategic Bitcoin reserve. We know that Texas is the first state that's going to start implementing that, and especially with Riot with their energy grid, that strategy that they have in place in the state of Texas, the big state of Texas, you can do so many things there with low cost energy. I think there's so much potential here. But just to cover this article here, what Riot did was, their stock price, it went up immediately after today. We heard about the, acquiring more Bitcoin. Now there's that HODL approach, right? Taking on that MSTR playbook. Most of you are wondering, like, are the miners going to benefit more than MSTR? Overall, MSTR, I mean, just year to date, I mean, they've gone up close to about, I'd say, 100,000, 1000% gain. And the miners have really been just underperforming, but I think that the workhorse in MSTR, can we see that same performance heading into 2025? I think that yes, it can. You look at companies like Nvidia, but from a technicals perspective, there will be some steam that will be blown off. And I think there's more values in companies like Riot, where there's that potential for that 3 to 5x at a minimum. But just with the Bitcoin, acquiring more today with that loan that they acquired, where there's no interest up through 2030, I think that using that MSTR Mara strategy on top of what they do, mine Bitcoin at a high throughput, low cost, fixed cost that they pay just on energy and power, that just gives them that strategy of mining and also buying Bitcoin. And who knows, Riot may get an additional convertible note similar to what Marhead did and continue to buy up Bitcoin. We know Bitcoin, there's only about less than 1.5 million Bitcoins available. And given that it's a limited supply, these companies right now are just buying up as much Bitcoin as possible because when you look at it, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years from now, Bitcoin, I think, you'll see that two commas there where it'll pass that 1 million marker, just looking at it through the lens from a long-term approach. So overall, I mean, today we saw that the price of Riot, it went up 10%, but just with the overall markets in the miner community specifically, we saw Riot end the day at, 5.35%, which was significantly better than the other miners. But I think that the sentiment will continue. And this looks really good. I mean, just comparing Riot, I mean, using that MicroStrategy approach, that just gives them that ability to use additional tools in their toolbox to apply what MSTR is applying as well. And just kudos to Riot because we have Michael Saylor, just acknowledging Riot as well. So when you think about it, Riot has Corsicana, one of the largest facilities right now with that capability to do so many things, especially with the power grid. In fact, Corsicana hasn't even been fully deployed yet. I mean, there's more buildings that are going to be built up, but when you think about it, if it can tap into the HPC AI sector, think about all of that service revenue that will be coming as now the push is towards Bitcoin and AI. So I think there's just so much value in this high-tech, innovative company that's fully supportive, vertically integrated into the Bitcoin strategy here. Now, just to share with you an article here, Starboard Value takes stake in Riot Platforms. So the eyes, you know, have it on that AI shift. And I think, with this investor, I mean, he's trying to push Riot to optimize the use of its facilities, like many of its peers that we've heard around the Bitcoin mining space. And I think just with this news that happened yesterday, I think this really got, investors excited because Starboard is a big time investor. And I think with the CEO of Riot, I mean, they're committed to creating value for shareholders. And Riot continues to look forward to constructive dialogue with Starboard on ways to achieve this shared goal. So I think there's a lot of open opportunity on the table and there's just ways to, think creatively, implement strategies that add value to the future of the United States. You think about the global initiative here, it's all about that Bitcoin strategic reserve, as well as tapping into AI. You think about Donald Trump electing, his team for the administration, having a person with that background in Bitcoin and AI that's in line with, just with the outcome of the government policy that's coming out. And I think, that's really going to benefit activist investor Starboard Value has built a significant position in Riot Platforms and is pushing for changes at the Bitcoin mining operator. So there we have it. I mean, just with moving onto the AI bandwagon, we've, heard a lot of companies trying to get into that AI space as well, especially with Bit Digital, Core Scientific, Hive Digital, Hut 8, and Iron. Now that they're all transitioning there, Riot is now, transitioning into that potential as well. So having that HODL perspective, that built-in infrastructure, as well as tapping into that growth, innovative business model, that's really going to attract more investors. And I believe this is why the overall share price is really going to start going up. As we look at the overall price targets, I think that as we head into end of 2024, I think December, we can start seeing it test 18, $20 heading into like February, March. I'm forecasting that we may even see Riot, break through that 40, $50 range. I'd love to hear what your perspective is, how you think of the overall sentiment with Riot. Is Riot a buy, a hold, a sell? Let me know what your thoughts are. Thank you, and please make sure to subscribe to All I See Is W.